Hey guys, so welcome to this video on using aliases in T-SQL, Transact-SQL or SQL Server. So let's just jump right into the two aliases. So basically aliases are used to give tables or columns inside tables a temporary name that sort of makes them easier to understand or more readable. So in a lot of data engineering or data engineering scenarios, the people behind the database would commonly use quite complicated names to, not complicated, but quite uh, unintuitive names to name columns or tables so that they can build a schema uh, that pertains to the guidelines of the organization in which they work and things like that. So it's not important, but it's just important for you to know that if you want to make the data easier to read, how do you go about that with aliases? And it's another thing that's important to know is that aliases only exist for the duration of the query. Like nothing has changed in the base table or base database itself. It's just when the data is displayed, the alias can be used to make it more readable and give that particular column or table a temporary name. So we use the as keyword to specify an alias. So I've got the syntax here where you can basically do select a column name as, and then you can give the alias that you want, and then like any other select statement, you can do the from table name below that alongside that. So let's just dive into the demo. I'm using Azure Data Studio, which is the tool on Mac to use SQL Server. You might be on Windows and using SQL Server Management Studio. I've got installation guides to both depending on what OS you are using. You can check them out in the link in the description. And apart from that, I'll also link to this GitHub repository, which is tsql20.aliases, which will have a table setup.sql file, which contains basically the creation statement for the table that I'll be demoing on for you, and the data inside that table which you can insert. So you just have to copy all the code in that and paste it in your in whatever SQL Server tool you're using, and you should be able to have the same data that I have to work on. And apart from that, I've got a aliases demo.sql file, which basically allows you to just copy paste the same queries that I'm going to demo for you right now if you're too lazy to write them down. I hope you aren't, but in the rare situation you are. So that's that. Let's dive into the demo right now. So let's start with a simple alias use case. So suppose you see this country column here. I've just done a select star from sample data. This is the sample data, and you can see there's a country column. So suppose you wanted to change country and call it nationality instead. So what you could do based on the syntax I showed you is select, then you mention the column name as is in the table, that's country, small case in this scenario, as, and then you specify the alias name. You can give nationality, and then like any other SQL select statement, you can do a from table name, which is sample data in this case. So when we run that, you can see we get the country table, and it's called nationality up here. Whereas if you had just done a select country from sample data, it would have been called country. And this makes more sense when in situations where the country table would have been called dimension underscore country 1, 2, 3, depending on how the database is set up. So here we've got a column name that already sort of makes sense, so it doesn't seem necessary, but trust me, when you get into the weeds of this subject, it is definitely necessary. So then another thing I wanted to show you is just how to use a space. So here we've got, suppose we run a select first name, and you can see we've got an underscore because we can't have a space in a column name. So suppose you wanted it just to be if you got OCD or something and you want to just make sure there is a space, what you can do is select first name and specify an alias with a space. And if you are specifying an alias that has a space, you need to either use square brackets or single quotes. So I use square brackets in this case, and then you can specify first name with a space, and you don't need an underscore or anything. So you can see that column name has changed and it now has a space, which normally you couldn't do in SQL without aliases. And like that, you can specify multiple column names with aliases. So you got select last name as, I'll show you with single quotes, last space name, and you run. So you can see you've got first name and last name both with single quotes. And finally, you can also combine columns, multiple columns, and give them aliases as well. So you can do a select first name, which is the column name, plus space column last name, and we can specify that as in square brackets full name. Basically, we're putting together those two columns and concatenating them with a space in between, and then we can alias that as the full name and display it. So from sample data run. So see this table below, it's going to join both the first name and the last name with a space, and the column will have an alias full name. Like magic. Alright, so that's it for this video on aliases. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share this video, comment, and also hit the bell icon to help us please the YouTube algorithm and continue making videos like these. So thank you guys.